All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Litchfield Planning Board meeting of July 19th, 2022. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. We do not have any alternates, so we will not need to appoint anyone this evening. So I'll do the roll call. Michael Croto, Chair.
Kate Stevens, Vice Chair.
Ron Stevens, member.
Kimberly Queenan, Selectman's Rep.
And we have Jay Minkara with us this evening. Welcome. Since we do not have an agenda this evening, we were going to keep this meeting very brief. We're going to do a couple of updates and committee reports, and I think we'll probably do a motion to adjourn because there is really nothing on the agenda for this evening. I will open it up to public comment for non-agenda items. Are there any items that the public wish to comment on non-agenda items not on the agenda for this evening? And seeing nobody in the audience, I'm going to close public input on non-agenda items. And with that, I guess we'll go to any updates. Jay.
Just a couple. Last time we met, we had a workshop on Albuquerque. I think, as of course, the board recalls, we've had a couple of meetings where we've had some pretty good public participation, issues related to speeding, to pedestrian safety, some of that particularly focused around the school. So one of the conclusions that came out of the last meeting, and also from the direction from the Board of Selectmen, was looking into some level of engineering input on what would be necessary. And so some of the issues that came up were, are there any kind of requirements or best practices around distance between crosswalks, distance from signage to a crosswalk to say a crosswalk is coming, or a stop sign? So some concern around the placement of those. We also had public input related to ADA access. So the suggestion was wherever you have a crosswalk, you have to have a landing of some sort that's ADA compliant. So that suggested that there was a need for some engineering input on some of the suggestions that we had. We had some locations that were suggested where crosswalks would be desired. Other areas, I think there was still some discussion. And we also talked about traffic calming measures, the idea of perhaps wider striped shoulders to create that perception of a narrower travel lane. So again, all those suggested some level of input. So I spoke to a consulting engineering firm that we now have on retainer, just to get a sense of what is the scope of that look like, and if there's a cost, well, there would be a cost. What's that associated cost and time frame for that? So we actually had a very good discussion yesterday. No surprise, they brought up things that I didn't think about. So that's why you want to have engineers. Just different things that came up. As an example, one of the things that we talked about was the flashing crosswalk sign. I didn't know you can only do that at a mid-block crossing. At mid-block crossing, you can't do that at an intersection. I didn't know. So that just all speaks to, oh, yes, this is a good idea. And I guess there are also some significant cost differences in the painting and design of a crosswalk, and there are acceptable colors. So again, that's all great. So I'm looking forward to getting that scope, and obviously we'll bring that back to the board. Okay. And then I could speak to a separate topic if you'd like as well.
Okay.
Sure. One of the things that we've also talked about briefly, and I know, Kim, we talked, and I'm not sure if the selectmen have had this discussion yet or not, but we were also soliciting projects for the upcoming round of the 10-year plan. And one of the potential projects we talked about was the intersection of Corning Road and 3A, where we know that intersection is projected to be at failure. And if I recall correctly, there are really two turning movements that are going to be at failure. The left-hand turn from Corning onto 3A and the left-hand turn from 3A onto Corning. And I know there's an AM, PM, and I can't honestly remember which one is the worst ones for each of those turning movements. So I also spoke to the firm about that. And the reason I did that is because I think what we have as a knowledge that there's going to be a problem, but we don't even really have a conceptual level of design.
Mhm.
And so what does that improvement really look like? No, I don't expect an engineering design, but I think it would be helpful for us to have some sense of, I'm assuming that means you're going to have a right-hand turn lane and a left, I guess for lack of better, you're going to have a turn lane from Corning, a left-hand turn lane and a right-hand turn lane onto 3A. And I assume that you're going to also potentially be looking at a left-hand turn lane onto Corning from 3A that is similar to what we see at 3A in Albuquerque. But I'm not an engineer. I don't know that. And I also don't know whether, as was suggested by DOT, you might want to make it a little bit more of a T intersection. So those are just all unknowns.
Yep.
And so would it make sense to try and at least develop the concept a little further so we know what we're talking about?
And is that something that comes from the planning board or the board of selectmen?
And it's the planning board, I think, could make a recommendation. Ultimately, I think the board of selectmen are going to have to decide whether they really want to pursue this as a project, to put it forward as a 10-year plan project.
I did go back to them because that's one of the reasons on the minutes, we did make a motion at the end to go to the Board of Selectmen with it, and I didn't see it there. That's one of the reasons I want to look at our minutes, but they are for putting it on the plan.
Okay.
They thought the pre-engineering was free. I want to just make sure about that cost. They assigned myself and Kevin Lynch to look at that. We'll get the lots, all the site plans from those lots in the area. I think they did want to clean it up if they could, make it more 90-degree angles. The turning lanes was also, but I had to go back and look at minutes to see where they wanted them. Was it Matt Watkins, or is that how you say his name? He's been in contact with me. He's on vacation.
Okay, good. Yeah, he's on vacation.
He told me that he sent me the link to, when you start filling out the application online, it's very rigid, like before you go to the next screen. And that's okay, but I guess he gave me the link so I could print out the whole thing.
Oh, good.
So I will meet with Kevin. He also was busy today and tomorrow with something. So we'll be working on that. We know the date is early August 5th, 7th, somewhere in there. So I will meet with Kevin this week on that to come up with a design.
Perfect.
And then we'll see when we work with you,
Yeah, we're happy to work with you. And, hopefully we think we can cover the engineer's input through the existing contract we have. So that would be helpful.
And we understand if it does get selected, then it's a real deep dive on the engineering.
Yeah, and that's
costs, but at
included,
least to
that'll
see if
be
we can get
included in the
approved.
cost of the project. So that's,
So that's what we did when we left here. Remember last time I said I'd take it back, and they were interested in going. They know it's going to fail in 10 years, although I think our engineer thinks more like 7.
Flush it out. I mean, these are long-term projects, but one of the things we see is every once in a while we get these influxes of money like we're just seeing now, and projects get advanced. So there can be a real value in getting things in. I think the other one that's worth putting in, we don't have to, but we could think about, is we did propose the sidewalk on Pinecrest to complete that sidewalk link to 3A. We proposed that as a transportation alternatives project. We didn't get it, but we've got the whole thing developed. We've got the whole scope developed, and we have a cost estimate. And so that should be a pretty light lift to get that in.
Through the 10-year plan?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, I didn't realize something that kind of small, I guess.
I know. I mean, a lot of people don't, but I mean, it was small-ish, but I say, well, put it in.
Yeah. I think we go through that
And then
scoring process and understand the process, right? Does it have regional impact? Does it have this? Does it help with, keeping us less cars, whatever, pedestrian safety?
And if another opportunity comes up for another one of these smaller grant programs, you can apply
ready to
too.
go.
There's nothing that says you can't. So
I mean, for Lake Nashua, they have money. They have a bigger population. They have engineers that already have this ready to go, right?
that's
They're
right.
ready 3 years before this comes out. We're not there.
They have an engineering department.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I was trying to look up the safe passage to school or something like that.
Safe Routes to School. Yeah.
Safe routes to school. Is that on hiatus or something right now?
Seems to be, yeah. The formal Safe Routes to School program seems to be.
Okay. All right.
Although who knows, we should keep our eyes on that one too.
Okay.
There is a Safe Streets for All grant program, and we're watching that also. And we're considering putting in a large multi-regional planning commission proposal. And the reason for looking at multiple is because of the match. The minimum project is $1 million, and it's a 20% match. So that's too heavy a lift for us to cover.
Okay.
So we're thinking if we go with a multiple RPC one and we all, share in covering the match, we might be able to do it. But I think that could be, there's the Safe Streets grants that are out now are for doing the safe street assessment, the safety assessment, and for physical improvements. But you can't go for the implementation money unless you have the safety audit done.
Okay.
So that's why we want to do that step first, and then hopefully people can, we can apply for it. Because I do think, work on something like 3A, like Albuquerque, the way we're speaking of it, I think that's clearly safety.
Mhm.
I'd love to be able to go for, implementation dollars. But you got to have the study that shows.
And do we know how much a study like that costs? Right.
We're going to do it. Our plan is to do it for every federal aid eligible road in the
Okay.
region. So it'll be every major road in the region, right?
Does something like that take?
Oh, I would guess it would easily take a year,
Okay.
easily. That's why it's $1 million grant minimum, because the scope is really large.
Mhm.
You bring on, a consulting firm, and
Okay.
so that's a big deal project.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting. There's a lot of these grants out there now. It's difficult to follow them all, and to figure out if you qualify and what the rules are. And there's so many webinars, but we're
It's
trying.
only so many. It's only so
There's so
many.
many.
That's
so
true.
much time.
Okay. Anything else, Jay, or is that basically?
I think that's it.
Okay. I'm going to do committee reports. Any reports from any committees? Do you have anything?
Well, I had the Corning Road Route 3A. We just discussed that.
Yep.
So it's hard with everybody's vacations right now, but I know we're running out of time on that. So let's do the
Right.
best we can with that application, and just get feedback and see where we go from there.
Right.
Our next Board of Selectmen meeting will be Monday, July 25th at 6:30 p.m. here at the Town Hall. Next Capital Improvement Planning Committee will be Monday, August 1st, 6:00 p.m. here at the Town Hall. I think we might have 2 more potential applicants that want to be the
Citizen representative. Yeah.
So that's going to, hopefully they come to that. NRPC, our quarterly meeting next is on Wednesday, September 21st at NRPC's headquarters at 30 Temple Street in Nashua. And that'll be at 7 p.m. Before I do go, we were supposed to have a workshop, maybe another one in Albuquerque, but it sounds like it's now talking engineers, but a person did contact me that would like to come to one of them. Are we going to schedule another one, or do you want her to write up concerns or come to public next time, or do we want to do another agenda? I don't know what's on the docket for site plans coming up.
Well, I mean, certainly, I don't know of any upcoming site reviews. Certainly, if we wanted to, we could certainly schedule that for August 2nd as a workshop.
We certainly could.
Okay, so there's one person I met that she wanted to
Yeah.
come in and
I think we could.
understand.
With the
it.
proviso that, if something does come up in the interim, which I don't think it will, but
Right.
then we can,
Yep.
go on. But we can do that.
Okay, just didn't want to leave her off the loop there.
Okay.
I think that's what I have.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. The Conservation Commission meets beginning of August. I think it's Thursday, August 4th. I believe 6:30 here in Town Hall. There has been no meetings of the Lower Merrimack Local River Advisory Committee. If there is one, they will usually post an agenda, so I haven't heard anything. The Capital Improvement Committee, as you mentioned, is meeting August 1st here in Town Hall, 6 p.m. And I think that is all I have. Do you have anything?
No, we're just settling out the budget committee
Mhm.
calendars. We don't have a meeting in July, but we will be meeting, I think it's August 25th,
Okay.
I believe. But we're still, I mean, at this point, budgets are still being finalized by departments, so it won't be till September, October that starts to ramp up. So.
Okay.
I do have one more item.
Yeah.
The library trustees came into the board of selectmen. They are going to use impact fees. They asked if they could to add a pavilion to the library, not connected to the building, because that's how the will was left. You couldn't. If you were going to add to the library, it had to be added to it, but they're going to put a pavilion a little bit further away from it. So they're going to use impact fees for that. I asked if they could come to the planning board as a courtesy, probably a quick review. It's all public information. They had $44,000 in their account. They did have a person come in and quote about $35,000. It might be a slab on the ground, kind of a pavilion. I just warned them that, sometimes engineering fees and things go a little more expensive, just to be ready for that. But I'm just letting everyone know they will come in and we can just make sure that, it's not a watered area, or it's not a, that the fire truck can get in, that kind of thing. So they will be coming in.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, just letting you know. Sorry about that. That will be on the docket.
I know we don't have an agenda this evening, but our statutory requirement is that we remain in compliance. And so tonight we did have our meeting as scheduled. And I think that does meet our statutory requirement. I will, because this is a meeting, I will ask for public comment at this time. Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on tonight's meeting? Seeing nobody here, I'm going to close public input, but I figured I'd give that opportunity this evening since we are doing a public meeting. Our next meeting is going to be August 2nd here at 7 p.m. in Town Hall. So I guess the question is, you folks want to do a workshop for that meeting? Is that what you're thinking? Is the
Like an
plan?
update, at least an update, right?
An
We
update.
can all do
An
an
update.
update.
We
Let
can put it on the
anybody
agenda.
still come in
Okay.
from the public if they want to add any.
I also think at that when we schedule that meeting for the agenda purposes, that we work on maybe a little bit of a discussion about what we want to do in terms of our zoning amendments. So think about, in the interim, everybody think about what they want to see, possibly that either you want to see it changes or amendments to or anything like that. And we'll discuss those at the next meeting. That'll be part of the agenda. Okay.
I think it makes sense.
We're going to forego the minutes till the next meeting when we have an agenda. So I have nothing further for this evening, and I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of the adjournment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 4-0-0. Thank you for joining us this evening. I hope you all had a great 4th of July, and we will see you August 2nd. Good night.